This is BRICS Global Television Network's Daily Roundup. We begin with the headlines. Vote counting in South Africa's 7th democratic elections is underway. The International Monetary Fund revises China's 2024 growth forecast upward. Scorching temperatures bear down on India as another heatwave hits the country. And a date's been set for the Alexander Usyk-Tyson Fury rematch. Hello, I'm Juliet Newell. In South Africa, electoral officials continue counting votes today following Wednesday's elections. Millions of South Africans turned out at voting stations across the country to cast their votes in the country's 7th democratic elections. The country is voting for a new National Assembly and the provincial legislature in each of the 9 provinces. It's a critical time for the governing African National Congress. The party's power is being put to the test for the first time in 30 years of being in power. President Cyril Ramaphosa, however, thinks the party's got it in the bag.
The people of South Africa will give the ANC, as they vote today, a firm majority. So in my mind, in my head and in my thought processes, there isn't even a doubt about that.
The Independent Electoral Commission will likely release the results on Saturday. BGTN anchor Ray White filed this report.
ANC is in for a bit of a shock this time around. In 2019, they got over 50%. This time around, the projections say between 41 and 44%. So therefore, they would most probably have to form a coalition government. Of course, if the opposition DA land up getting over 40%, that could be a different story. But they're polling at around 25, 26% at the moment. Those are the projections that are coming in. Now, looking at the different provinces at the moment, KZN is the big surprise because that is the MK party of former President Jacob Zuma, and they are doing serious damage there to the governing ANC. The opposition Democratic Alliance, they are looking at taking the Western Cape once again. Ray White, BGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Our BGTN South Africa correspondent, Kaka Ngofe, was also out and about on election day. Take a look.
This election brings to a close the 6th administration of our democracy. When this administration took office in 2019, our country stood at a turning point. We had endured a decade of corruption and state capture, of weak economic growth, and the erosion of our public institutions. Today, we have put that era behind us.
On April 27, 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections, a momentous occasion that marked a significant turning point in the country's history. After decades of apartheid, a system of institutionalized racial segregation and oppression, South Africans finally had the opportunity to participate in the democratic process. South Africans are casting their votes again with hopes for change.
We're regressing a bit due to corruption, and I think it's important that for people to continue voting, because otherwise you'll find that the wrong people enter into power. Because people have just relaxed and no longer voting.
Nago vote because we petrol. Because it to 30 years area bonus na petrol. Bela na bela ni petrol. Rega vote le unwe maybe awa do bona petrol. Because rula mikukuni and limezi limitlakasi aiwo bela so rega vote ra chencha do bona jiringwa bebe maybe jiribuzi. Lo re le bana ba khono ya mahala sigolo.
We do see the difference. We do see the progress and the effort that the government is making, but I mean, we are a country, we are a bunch, we are a whole plate, so I don't think it'll ever meet our needs and wants fully.
Over the past 3 decades, South Africa has made significant strides in building a democratic society. The country has implemented a robust and progressive constitution, held regular elections, and established institutions that promote accountability and transparency. Among many positives, the country has built roadworks, invested in infrastructure, education, health, and housing. Despite these achievements, South Africa still faces a significant number of challenges. The country still continues to grapple with economic inequality, unemployment and poverty, as well as an electricity and water crisis. Corruption has also hindered effective governance. As South Africa celebrates 30 years of democracy, it is essential to reflect on the journey thus far, acknowledging achievements and confronting ongoing challenges. Citizens of the country are hoping that these elections will address the lingering effects of apartheid, promote economic inclusion, and strengthen democratic institutions. Kaka Ngofe, BGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Iran will also be voting soon to choose President Ebrahim Raisi's successor after he, his foreign minister and others died in a helicopter crash last week. Mohammad Makber has been appointed to serve as acting president until the position's filled, following the 28th of June elections. But what does the future hold for Iran? With nuclear talks with the International Atomic Energy Agency on hold, a raft of sanctions, some of which date back to 1979, still in place, allegations of corruption, and the death of Mahsa Amini, still a thorny issue, the death of Raisi and imminent elections come at a sensitive time for the country. Alex Vatanka, director of the Iran program at the Middle East Institute, shares his views on what lies ahead for Iran.
I think in the short term, there will be continuity on key issues that the West cares about, that the Iranian opposition cares about, since issues like forcing the hijab on women and so forth, the nuclear program, Iran's regional agenda. None of those things, in my expectation, will be changing anytime soon. But some of the most important issues that the rest of the world cares about, Iran's nuclear program, what Iran does in the region, and so forth, the Iranian position on Israel, the United States. So these issues are so strategically sensitive for the regime that is essentially the president is one voice among many voices, but the most important voice is not that of the president, it's that of the supreme leader Ali Khamenei and the generals in the Revolutionary Guards, who are essentially leading Iranian regional policies, Iranian missile production, the nuclear program, and so forth. The presidency has historically been used in the Islamic Republic as a staging ground for future supreme leaders. Most famously, Ali Khamenei himself was president for 8 years, from 1981 to 89, before he became supreme leader. And that was what many people have predicted would happen to Raisi, that he would be president and eventually he will become supreme leader. But now he's dead. It remains to be seen who else can, be candidates for that job.
Saudi Arabia's King Salman's chaired a virtual cabinet meeting, the first time since he was hospitalized earlier this month, suffering a lung infection. At the start of the session, he thanked his family and the people of the kingdom for their kind prayers during his treatment. King Salman's been on the throne since 2015, although Prince Mohammed was named Crown Prince in 2017 and acts as day-to-day ruler. Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest crude oil exporter, has mostly remained mum on the 88-year-old king's health over the years. But earlier this month, the royal court revealed he had been suffering from joint pain and fever. He was examined at the royal clinics at Al Salam Palace in Jeddah and then treated for a lung infection. Before that, his most recent hospitalization had been in May 2022, when he was admitted for a colonoscopy and stayed in hospital for just over a week. The BRICS Academic Forum held in Russia has recently concluded. The convention facilitates interaction between scholars from BRICS plus countries to encourage academic exchanges, strengthen dialogue between governments and academia, and to provide policy advice. Well, joining me now to chat about the event, Gustavo de Cavallo, Senior Researcher at the African Governance and Diplomacy Program of the South African Institute of International Affairs. Hello.
Hi, good morning.
So you have just recently returned from Russia for that forum. How did it go?
I think it was a very important event, I think, in the space where BRICS is at the moment. What we saw last week in Moscow was really an important discussion between academics from different BRICS countries thinking about what is the situation of the world today, what are some of the biggest challenges, and what are ways in which BRICS as a group, but also its own individual members can start looking into ways in which can reduce the risks that many of its members see from a global order that is increasingly fractured, and perhaps provide some solutions for member states for the summit that is going to happen in Kazan in October.
What would you say has been the biggest focus for this forum this year?
One aspect that we've noticed with BRICS in the last couple of years, and certainly increased in 2024, is the geopolitical nature of BRICS. What is even the theme presented by the BRICS countries was a theme about the global chessboard, the challenges that it's faced, and that reflection that often is presented to us as academics as something a bit far away from reality, something a bit abstract, but certainly understanding what are the conditions that enable or constrain members to engage internationally, and that certainly will continue to dominate many of the debates within and outside of BRICS.
The issues that have been discussed at the forum, how are these implemented after, everybody's gone back to their countries?
There is a number of ways, and I think it's important to mention I attended as a guest. I wasn't part of the South African delegation directly. I'm originally from Brazil, which brings, I think, on its own an interesting way. But there are several ways of implementing those discussions and decisions. One of them is the direct recommendations that the different BRICS academic think tanks in the different BRICS countries provide to member states. We're looking into opportunities of collaboration, and there is also some of the softer elements, the ability of understanding and learning and creating relationships between academics in different parts of the world. That in itself provides an opportunity for more collaboration, for more understanding, which is very much part of what BRICS is interested to do, is this people-to-people relationship that members want to foster on a daily basis.
I see there were non-BRICS members who also attended. Why is that?
We've seen mostly, I think the first surprise for many of us was to see some of the new members that joined BRICS not attending. We saw a very small delegation from Egypt. Saudi Arabia yet hasn't confirmed their participation and wasn't there, and we had a very small participation from the UAE. I think largely we saw majority of the participants in the event coming from BRICS countries and some smaller participation of experts from different parts of the world. And I think it's very much to do with how the chair and the host of a particular year looks into how to strengthen the debate and the invites that it provides to a broader community beyond those that are attending as part of the national delegations.
Now you mentioned Kazan, that's coming up I think in October?
Yeah.
What do you expect from that?
It's going to be a very important discussion, and I think there is two particular issues that I'm looking for in the coming months. I think first is the developments around discussions on the use of local currencies and the potential creation of a new system of payments. This is part of the importance for many member states at the moment to reduce the risks of the global order, to reduce the risks of a potential bigger fallout between major global powers. And I think the second issue is splitting two. One, for us to understand how the new members that have been invited and have joined from January will effectively perform and how they're going to be part of the negotiations, a group that remains very strong about its idea of consensus, but increasingly some kind of a reflection on how will this expansion move forward. Are we going to create more clarity around the categories of partner countries? Are we going to bring new countries? I think it's unlikely at this stage, but it could potentially happen. So certainly a continuation of many important debates that happened in South Africa last year and will certainly continue for Brazilian presidency in 2025.
And at the same time, there are the Kazan Games that will be taking place.
Yeah, this is part of what BRICS has evolved in the last couple of years to increase and to expand beyond just the summits. We've seen this last year with South Africa. There were around 200 events that South Africa organized, and this year in Russia over 250 meetings being done, and this idea of expanding beyond the role of heads of states, that it's usually the most visible ones, but also creating new layers of dialogue and interaction between members, which I think is particularly important if we want to create a stronger BRICS identity.
To China now, where the country is hosting a litany of Arab dignitaries and diplomats with the aim of strengthening ties with the Middle East and to present a common voice on the Israel-Hamas conflict. China, supportive of a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, has historically been sympathetic to the Palestinian cause and has, since the start of the war in October last year, been calling for an immediate ceasefire. Last month, Beijing hosted talks with Palestinian groups Hamas and Fatah to promote intra-Palestinian reconciliation. Those attending this week's forum in China include Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Earlier today, President Xi Jinping delivered a keynote speech marking the opening of the forum aimed at building common consensus between China and Arab states. Xi, who's called for an international peace conference to resolve the Israel-Hamas conflict, hopes to boost the country's reputation and standing in the Arab world by strengthening solidarity and coordination with the Arab world. Beijing's also focusing on undermining the US's credibility and influence in the Middle East region. And in other news from China, the country is sending 2 giant pandas to the United States, signaling a new era of panda diplomacy. This despite soaring tensions between the 2 superpowers, heightened by US threats of secondary sanctions on Beijing over Russia's war on Ukraine and steep tariff increases on several Chinese imports. Beijing's close ties with Moscow are frowned upon by Washington, with the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken accusing China of supporting the Russian war machine. Though he didn't accuse the country of supplying weapons outright, he has alleged that China is providing critical components. China's been using so-called panda diplomacy since 1972. That's when the first pandas were sent to America as a gift, following then-President Richard Nixon's historic visit to the communist nation. As the United States' small population of giant pandas dwindles, there's much excitement building ahead of the arrival of the pair, named Bao Li and Qing Bao, under a 10-year breeding and research agreement. The White House, and more specifically the First Lady, Jill Biden, is delighted and has welcomed the news. And India's capital, Delhi, is experiencing record high temperatures. On Wednesday, the mercury hit a scorching 50.5 degrees centigrade. The India Meteorological Department reported severe heatwave conditions in the suburb of Mongashpur. This broke the 50 degrees centigrade mark for the first time, surpassing the previous 2002 record of 49.2 degrees. Delhi's home to over 30 million people. They've been warned of the very high likelihood of developing heat illness and heat stroke in all ages, particularly vulnerable individuals like the elderly. Scientific studies indicate climate change is responsible for the longer, more frequent and more severe heat waves. Up next, BRICS Plus Business News.
Coming soon on BRICS Global Television.
What was your moment in prison when you were like, I don't want to do this anymore?
I was 21 years old when I took my first life in prison. I had 1 star on my shoulder. By the age of 25, I became the first star general of the 28s, meaning that I had 4 stars on both my shoulders. I had taken 8 people's lives.
The International Monetary Fund has revised China's 2024 growth forecast to 5%, up from its initial projection, citing recent policy actions by Beijing. This resilience is expected to continue into 2025, with growth slowing slightly to 4.5%. The decision reflects robust first-quarter GDP data and recent policy measures. China's faced economic challenges due to a debt crisis in the property market and weak consumer spending. However, recent steps to bolster the housing market have been welcomed by the IMF. While necessary corrections are underway, the IMF suggests a comprehensive policy approach to ensure a smooth transition and to mitigate risks. Coming up, news on the Usyk Fury rematch and the Indian MotoGP with Yolanda Pondor.
Coming soon on BRICS Global Television.
I went into a tackle and he was this very big guy. He was a world wrestling champion. And I went in thinking that I'd be able to use my force to knock him over. And his shoulder connected my head, and that's when I broke my neck. So I lay on the field. We lay for about an hour. The ambulance couldn't get onto the field because it was a semi-professional game.
Every white cross represents a farmer who has been murdered. Some call these the forgotten farm murders.
Hello, I'm Yolanda Pondo. The Indian MotoGP schedule for September has been cancelled due to operational reasons. It will be replaced by Kazakhstan's MotoGP event, originally postponed due to floods, now rescheduled for September 20 to 22. The Indian race will return early in the 2025 season at the Bud International Circuit in March. The decision comes after consultation with the government of Uttar Pradesh to ensure optimal weather conditions for spectators and riders. The flooding in Central Asia led to the postponement of Kazakhstan's race, which was initially set for June. The MotoGP calendar currently comprises 20 confirmed events, with 6 already concluded following the cancellation of the Argentine GP earlier in the season. And it's happening. Alexander Usyk will meet Tyson Fury in a rematch on December 21 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Usyk, the undefeated Ukrainian, secured a split decision victory against Fury earlier this month in their undisputed heavyweight bout in Saudi Arabia. The kingdom's General Entertainment Authority confirmed the rematch on X, formerly Twitter, during Riyadh season. The last undisputed heavyweight championship was won by Britain's Lennox Lewis in 1999 against Evander Holyfield. Usyk, 37, who previously held undisputed titles at cruiserweight, has an extensive amateur and professional boxing career, including Olympic and world titles. That's all from me today. I'll be back again tomorrow with more BRICS Plus sports updates.
"22 Seconds" came about. I've been working on human trafficking stories recently. I've been doing documentaries. It was just like, are we doing enough? It was a campaign that was, let's challenge ourselves, let's get it out there, let's try and reach as much people as possible.
130 people are trafficked all around the world per hour. So every 22 seconds, someone is being trafficked. 22 seconds could be your walk from a school gate inside the school. It could be your walk from your house to the bus station. It's just a short distance. This campaign is a campaign that is set to raise awareness, to show the severity of this crime that's happening around us. I'm hoping that it will get society to speak about it. It will get communities, governments and organizations to come together and tackle this. I'm hoping that it will get the young girl, the young boy to understand the dangers that we live around. And we're speaking to schools so that children are also aware of this. Teachers are aware, because also teachers play a vital role into seeing kids that they teach that this child was not like this. The campaign is running for a month, but that's not where our work will end. We will continue campaigning and we will continue moving towards our goal of getting 22 million signatures. You can share the campaign firstly on social media using the hashtags 22 seconds not for sale, hashtag 22 seconds empower change, because we are empowering change. Please sign the petition. The whole idea also behind the petition is that once we reach 22 million signatures, we will take it to the UN. It is up to us to raise awareness and show human trafficking that it has no place in our society.
And finally, BRICS Global Television Network is all about giving back, and one of our projects is supporting Homeless Talk newspaper. The publication provides an immediate source of income for the unemployed, helping them meet their basic needs such as food and shelter and transportation. As part of BGTN's partnership with Homeless Talk newspaper, we recently hosted our first journalism workshop for the newspaper vendors and journalists. The workshop, facilitated by BGTN's Ray White, empowered attendees with hands-on experience in news gathering, storytelling techniques, and ethical reporting practices. Take a look.
As part of BGTN's partnership with Homeless Talk newspaper, join us as we look back at the first journalism workshop held.
I want you each to write down 2 words that you are from here that you think are important, or 2 topics. You can even go that one, that one, that one, that one. What do you think is important from the story? Write them down, and then we're going to go around to see what are the important elements of the story. Everyone with me?
The attendees recount how the journalism workshop provided a platform for growth and exploration.
Such an awesome day today, what we did and what we spoke about, and if you think about it, how important the media is. Now, Homeless Talk is such a great publication as well. You see it on our street corners, we buy it, we read it. I was very refreshed to see the articles as well, because when I said to the folks here, I said, what articles do you use? Who are you writing for? And they said, no, middle to upper class, because we need to get that revenue in. I just thought to myself, it's so clever, because you know who your target market is because of that revenue. But yeah, getting down to the media and the importance of the media, and you could see that today. Everyone's saying, we're important, we want to know how to do it properly, and I think they really enjoyed today.
The writing exercise was pretty awesome, because I didn't know, I could just think of the out of the box in the heat of the moment, and how to like improvise if you need to improvise. So it was quite informative and nice.
Today's workshop was actually an opportunity of a lifetime, that's what I could say. What we've learned today, we could also relay it to some of our colleagues that didn't come, because I think this is the information that we, as the writers and the entire staff of Homeless Talk, we really needed. It actually empowered us, especially about how we tackle a story, how we go about interviewing high-profile individuals, I can say that, and how we as a journalist, we are also governed by the laws of the land, and also how to respect the sources that we could come across.
Mrs. Well done. Yeah, you got it, eh? You got it.
BGTN cares, connecting our futures, securing a brighter tomorrow.
We'll have more BRICS Plus news tomorrow. Until then, you can go to our website and social media for updates. And while you're there, take a look at the 22 Seconds Anti-Trafficking Campaign, an initiative that seeks to raise awareness and inspire action to combat human trafficking on a global scale. Did you know that one person's trafficked every 22 seconds worldwide? BGTN's campaign seeks to educate, engage, and mobilize individuals, governments, NGOs, and businesses in the fight against human trafficking. And don't forget to sign the petition.